going. Washing machine is really high to
Yes, I turn it off.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Monday. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is T Kay Nthebe, and I'll be hosting this segment of Mentorship Mondays. Now, what Mentorship Mondays is a series where we target young professionals to talk about the workplace and, of course, different careers, different professions, rather. So, I have the privilege of hosting Elita Banda. And Elita Banda, I'll read her profile now. She is really doing amazing work, and we really are excited to have her here. So, you may be wondering what the Mentorship Mondays are. So, Mentorship Mondays, like I mentioned, is a series targeted at young professionals and is a platform for us to have conversations about the workplace and about different professions. We invite professionals who are mentors in the Inspire Mentorship Program to share their professional journeys with us, to share who or what has impacted their careers and or how they have managed to build their careers. So like I mentioned, today we get to chat to the beautiful Elita, and let me get straight into her bio. So Elita Banda is a communication specialist at, well, she used to be with the World Bank. So obviously she's changing her career. So we get to talk about that today. She holds bachelor degrees in communication, in corporate communication and international affairs, and a master's of development policy. She is a former curator of the Global Shapers Maseru Hub and a member of the Pitsong Institute of Implementation Research. She is passionate about socioeconomic development for her country and the African continent, and she has an interest in the role that governing institutions play in creating a conducive environment for growth and development. Elita, welcome, and we are happy to have you here. So tell us about who you are. Your bio is really incredible, but I want to know, and the viewers also want to know, who Elita is beyond the accolades. Who are you?
Oh, beyond the accolades. Thank you so much, Teeks. I call him Teeks.
My brand manager will kill you.
Oh, okay, TK. TK is better,
TK.
right? All right. Thank you so much, TK. I'm so happy to be here. I'm feeling really honored to be a part of Inspire Innovation Mentors and to now have a chance to speak here at Mentorship Mondays. As you said, my name is Elita Banda. I am a communication specialist in the development sector. I, as you said, have worked with the World Bank, and I'm currently working with UNICEF. Exciting. I'm excited about that. I recently moved, as you just mentioned, so I'm excited. I'm a young Mosotho. I'm passionate about development. And this is simply because I want to see us as Africans, as Basotho, living better lives, living our lives in better environments, because that's very important to spur that, social and economic development. So, I guess that's.
I love the last part where you say living in better environments. So let's bring it a bit home. Before I know I have a lot of questions that I'm going to ask, but we are slap bam in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are seeing a lot of lives affected, both both social and economically. So what do you believe your role as a communication specialist is? Or what the role of the industry you're in should be doing during these difficult times?
Wow, Teeks.
I know I ask slap them very difficult questions straight on.
I think first and foremost with COVID itself, it's one of our key roles is countering misinformation and disinformation. Making sure that people know the facts. As far as it's possible, know what COVID is, and then also to get people to know exactly how it is that it's affecting not only Lesotho but the rest of the world. paired with that, or stemming from that, is our role is to help people, help governments understand the impact of COVID, not only now when we are under lockdowns, but far into the future, because COVID does have implications far beyond the pandemic itself. Implications to education, where kids and young people are out of school, implications to our health systems, and to just reimagining the world that we want to live in. COVID also poses some advantages, that the opportunities, rather opportunity to reimagine, the opportunity to look at what's not working and work at making it even better. So our role is to pass on this message, to talk to people, to bring the voices of people that are a lot of times unheard into the fore, and to advocate to those who have power to do better, because people deserve better.
Is this what you knew before you started your career? Is this the vision you had in mind? I'm thinking an 18-year-old Elita deciding what to study. Mainly because a lot of us as young people go through that struggle. What do I study at a university or tertiary level? So is this what you had in mind, or what did you have in mind before deciding what to study and deciding which profession you want to go into?
Yeah. I'm personally, I'm just getting comfortable with being a communication specialist. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work for the betterment of people's lives. I wanted to contribute to that. And I wasn't sure exactly, what the path would look like, but I knew that was who I was, I know that when I completed high school, I wanted to do international affairs, but parents and stuff. I had applied for corporate communications at UOFS, and my mom was like, "Well, they've accepted you. What are you, Johannesburg, to do IR?" And I ended up being at UOFS. It did corporate communications, Immediately after that, I got the opportunity to go to South Korea, and that's when I did my international affairs, and then a master's in development policy. And I can say it just, the stars aligned.
Yeah.
I can't say I planned it out to say I'm gonna be here, and even when I completed my master's, I wasn't like I'm gonna be a communication specialist, but rather, as I came back home, as things happened, and I ended up doing communications, and now I think the how do they say, anyway, it's becoming clearer. It's becoming clearer that communication does contribut to what I have always wanted to do. Okay. Yeah, so that's what it is for me.
Talking about stars aligning and you coming back, what happens? Take us through that journey. You come back, you get your first job. What was your first job? And your bio says you were working for the World Bank, and now you say you've moved to UNICEF. Take us a bit through your career journey and its progression.
Oh, okay. When I came back from South Korea with my master's in development policy, I'm excited. I want to change everything,
Want to change everything.
Exactly.
I love that.
Like, yeah. I know how this should be. I know how this should be, I work with the U.S. Embassy as an alumni coordinator, and I work with the Yali Leadership Innovation Hub. So that was fun. Again, it wasn't necessarily planned. And I'll take a step back to say, with me, I won't say it's chance, right? But my career advancement have been me being in a specific place, speaking up about whatever it is I believe in, and somebody saying, "Oh, I want to work with you." Literally from the US, working with the US Embassy, the World Bank, the rep saw me at the American corner. We had a conversation, and she was like, "Oh, by the way, we're looking for somebody." And again, with UNICEF, I was hosting an event for the World Bank, and they were like, "We want to work with you." Obviously, I applied, but But what I'm saying is that with me, it has been a matter of me being at a certain place in time, speaking up, being myself, and that's where the advancement has
being
happened.
yourself. I absolutely love that. So that brings me to my next question. Impact. What situation or who has had the biggest impact in your life?
Yeah. For me, it's not who, it's what.
Okay.
That opportunity to study abroad, to travel, I think the Korean experience. Anybody who's a student of development knows that South Korea grew from a least developed country to a advanced economy in a period of less than 60 years.
Okay.
So studying that, and then studying it in an international environment, making friends, talking to people, that is what has impacted my life. And that is what has given me some of the perspectives I have, some of the views I have of development and just of life, So that's what's impacted my life.
Exposure. It really does open up your mind. It really does open up your mind. So now you're part of the Inspire Mentorship Program. What brought you to doing mentorship? What's your take on mentorship? Have you had any mentors? And, why do you believe so strongly in the mentorship program?
I haven't had like direct official mentors. Of course, there have been people, professors, employers that have believed in me, and always, tried to guide me and, under a program or anything. But for me, that's what it's been. There hasn't been anything official, structured in the way that this program is. But it's been helpful. Without people guiding you, I was fortunate that I had people that cared about me, and they, they guided me during different times. So with the program, having seen the impact that unstructured mentorship had on my life, I believe that I should contribute to somebody else's life or to other people's lives in a similar manner. And I'm fortunate that I can join such a program and intentionally and structurally channel my energy towards this. I just to say, I think it's very important, especially in Lesotho, where we are somewhat closed as a country, with COVID, it's even worse. We are literally closed, and our young people need to know that there's a greater world out there, that you are valid, that your opinions, your thoughts are valid, and, there's opportunity, and always work towards your dreams.
Would you say that what you just said now sort of links back to what I read in your bio? I mean, your involvement in the Global Shaper community, Bitsong Institute, the other one that I missed. Yeah. Would you say that what you just said now about wanting to expose younger people to different platforms and different opportunities and to the world at large is sort of informing some of the initiatives you put your heart in, or you put your time in and your energy into?
Yes, definitely. I mean, as I said, it's all about making people's lives better. I'm a believer somewhere, like my bio goes into institutions, right? I believe that our institutions as Lesotho, as Africa, need to step up, need to, government needs to create a conducive environment for young people to grow, for industry to grow, for anything for tourism, for the arts, there needs to be enablers of all of these. And as we work at that, people are so strong. People also have their own agency. They also have their own power. And empowering people goes towards meeting this endeavor for government that we have sometimes so little control of, having it meet, empowering of people, and hopefully we can sooner rather than later see, a different world. And oh gosh, COVID is such an opportunity, if it's taken as such, to reimagine what we're doing.
Reimagine. The word keeps popping up. So now I want to ask you a bit more into focusing into your career or your profession rather, COVID in mind, the fourth industrial revolution in mind, technology in mind. We are not moving in, we are in the era where we are forced to have virtual meetings. We are forced to have virtual webinars, So what are some of the relevant ideas that are happening in your specific profession right now, taking the technology era, the digital era, and the COVID pandemic into consideration? What are some of the disruptions or ideas or whatever is happening in your specific profession?
I think communications is not something that, although sometimes it's taken that way, it's not something that you have as a side something. It's not supposed to be, you've achieved something with, the mentorship program, so you need to post posters and what. That's not how communications should be looked at. Communication is part and parcel. It's a channel. It's an approach even to advancement. For us, it's really finding ways to use communications as a tool for engagement, engagement with people, engagement with stakeholders, really empowering, like I said previously, bringing the voices of those that are not very advantaged to the fore, pushing those voices up to the policy and decision makers, that noise is distracting. But anyway, so yes, engaging people, bringing people's voices out there, and then it's, like I said again, countering dis and misinformation, making sure that people know exactly what's happening and how they are expected to act or not to act, or just the knowledge that they are supposed to have. And then finding ways to measure the impact of communication itself, so that we're able to really make that case to say communication is not just a side tool that you pick up, but it's integral to the development journey.
I think you said something that's quite mind-blowing about the impact of communication and being able to measure the impact of communication. And personally, I also am advocating for monitoring and evaluation.
Definitely.
So what are some of the strategies or ideas that, one or two that come to mind when people are talking about the impact or measurement of communication?
Yeah, I mean, technology is helping us so much, with social media. You can put an ad out there, you see how many people are liking it, but they're also helping us go deeper. How many people are really engaging with your post. So those kind of tools are really helping. Even with radio, radio, the reach, that kind of, who are you reaching, so that you're better able to target your message. Who are you reaching? Who do you want to reach? I think technology is really helping us figure those things out, using the digital to count the numbers of who is it that you're reaching, who is engaging, yeah, so we're making advancements in
Talking about advancements, I love this conversation. Talking about advancements, So it brings me to another question sparked by what you just said now, We are living in an era where things are changing at a blink of an
rapid
eye,
pace,
at a
yeah.
very rapid pace. How do you as a leader keep up with the trends happening in your specific industry, specific profession? You just spoke about the digital era, We've gone from traditional communication to digital communication. How are you keeping abreast of the changes that are currently happening in the industry and your profession?
I mean, top of the list would be observing. Communication is about people. You always talk to people, So observing what people are saying on the different platforms, observing how, certain buzzwords are changing, from what to what. So observing and then research, trying to understand what the thinkers are saying about the industry, and then of course corporate, getting training on the job, on what to look at, where to focus, where the industry is going, how very important, how communication is really contributing to the development agenda. I think that's what we care about.
Research. How do you do your research? Do you do your research online? Do you read articles? Do you read books? How do you actually do your research?
Mostly online, searching journals, all of that. It's mostly online. I mean, with
keeping up with the times.
Exactly, and then also with us being so. Some of the material is very hard to find. So you try to subscribe to industry-specific journals.
I was about to ask,
right?
Because there's a lot of information out there. How do you know? How do you filter which one is fact, which one is fiction, which one is fake news, and which one? Obviously, as a communications profession, you would know. You've got you got a few what's the word I'm looking for? You are able to decipher what's
exactly.
But at the end of the day, I feel like there's a lot of information. So I was actually going to ask, how do you,
trusted organizations, the World Bank, UNICEF.
I see what you did there.
Trusted organizations, there are in every industry. I believe there are trusted organizations. You know that you can't just go onto Google and pick any and everything. You have your trusted sources. And some of them are not very popular, but they will come to you. But largely, you have in the development sector, you have development organizations, you have ODI, you have research institutes. Those, look at your trusted sources, don't just look at every single thing that's there out there.
So talking about development, again, we are talking about development. What does professional development mean to you? And how do you go about developing yourself professionally? So what does it mean to you, and how do you as a leader actually go out and develop yourself? You've already mentioned one from corporate trainings that you attend, but how do you develop yourself and keep your skill set relevant in today's changing market?
Observing again, looking at what is it that's important. What is it that, like I said, I didn't set out wanting to be a communications specialist per se, but now I'm here. So what are the requirements of being in this profession? What do I need to know? Is it public speaking? Is it copywriting? Is it copy editing? Is it digital, creating digital content, all of that, looking at those and then seeing what I can do. You take distance courses, you take online courses, you engage with people that do what it is that you want to know. So that's how I do it. Yeah.
And what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your profession? And how did you overcome it? Sounds like an interview question.
Right. I don't even know if I've fully overcome it, but I think my biggest challenge, and it might even sound funny for some people that think I'm so, outspoken, but my challenge has been really raising my voice, Elita's voice in the industry, raising, whether it's what do they call it, upward managing, whether it's that, but
managing upwards.
Thank you. Whether it's managing upwards or supporting downwards,
or managing down. Supporting down is the
whether it's that, just really having that courage. Our industry can be very intimidating. We work with diplomats, we work with government, and it might be easy to just shy away and maybe give your contribution on paper sometimes, and have it as the paper goes into different versions, have your voice fade away. So really getting my voice out there, speaking up, having the courage to speak up. And I'm trying. I haven't fully overcome it, but I also believe that I'm still very young in this career path, and yeah.
And before I move on to the last set of questions, which are very deep, let me prepare you. So what's your get up? What do you do in the morning to get yourself up? Because let's be honest, some days are harder to get up and face the day than others. So when you are rock bottom, when life is not saying yes, what's your coping strategies or mechanisms that get you up and say, you spoke about showing up. So how does Elita show up when things aren't going according to plan? When your voice is not being heard, when your contribution is not being noticed, how do you get up and pull yourself up and keep going?
Going back to self. Just taking a moment to go back to the inner me, because that's where the power comes from, that's where the voice comes from, and that's where the wisdom, I believe, would come from, So just taking a moment to go back to who I am, outside of the buzz, going back to who I am, and reminding myself of where is it I want to go, who is it I want to be, and then prayer.
I recently learned, I was watching a webinar last night. I actually learned that there is a coach for everything, from a sales coach to an emotional coach, to there's a coach for every single thing. So do you have a coach beyond? I know I asked you about a mentor earlier on, but do you actually have a coach? And what kind of coach do you have, or coaches do you have?
I have a coach for the speaking up. Somebody who really pushes me to say, but Anita, you can, just go out and say it, just go out and do it, so that there's that. And then it's a bit informal and just personal, coaches on coaching on how to deal with all the things that come at us in life, having a different perspective of my engagement and my role with the rest of the world, learning what to engage with, what not to engage with, knowing myself, what takes away my energy, what, gives me energy, and all of that. So that's I use different sources, meditation, gurus and stuff. Honestly, I don't believe that one person has, or one source has all the answers. So I would, listen to myself and tap into different sources and take whatever inspiration I can get. And yeah.
All right, interesting. So now, what advice would you give to 18-year-old or somebody who's thinking of changing careers, or somebody who's at that point to say that I love what Elita is doing as a communication specialist. That's something I could do. What advice would you give that person?
At 18.
Let's start at 18 and let's start as somebody who's been in a career and they're thinking of doing a career change. Somebody who's maybe 28 who's thinking that I actually don't like what I'm doing now. I should have gone into communication. Yeah. So let's start with the 18-year-old, and then let's start 18-year-old who's about to start their studies, and then somebody who's already been in corporate or who's been working, not necessarily in corporate, but who's been working, thinking of doing a career change.
Okay. To the one just completing high school, I would say, communication is as much, it's a science, it's also an art, and the art part of it comes with knowledge, a whole lot of general knowledge, general academic sector knowledge, I will also say that for me, it's communication in the development sector. So there are differences with communication in the private sector, So in the development sector, knowing development, knowing the issues of development, knowing policy recommendations, knowing trusted institutions to find information, trusted institutions to align your thinking with. And then as an African, I cannot say this, knowing yourself, trying to, I know it's for us, we went to school in different countries, and we got, even in our own country, there's a lot of westernization of development, westernization of everything. I think a favor that we can really do for ourselves and that the young professional can do is learning more about Africa, so that we can find authentic solutions to the problems we face. So I think that's what I would say. Learn a lot, learn about development, and then learn about how to make it authentically African. I think it's something that even I am still learning. And then to the person trying to, change their careers, you are probably from a specific sector, and if you want to do communications, then find ways to contribute for communication contribution in that sector. Let's say you are in finance, right? There's a lot to be said about finance in the communication sector, and yours is to see how to and it gives you an advantage because you've already engaged with the stakeholder on the other side, so how do you help this side speak in a language that the other side can understand? So I think that's what I would say, whether it's the energy sector, finance sector, health sector, how are you going to help, bridge the gap of information and communication and engagement and raising the voices of people that are not being heard.
Engagement, authentic African solutions. I love that. I noted that. So I think this is the last question for the session today. I think we are actually ahead of time. So I don't know. I went through all the questions, so I have a lot more time. And when I have time, everybody knows that TK is going to go a bit excited, But what is next for Elita?
Ooh, okay.
I know you've just done a career switch, you've moved a career move rather, not a switch, from the World Bank to UNICEF. What's next for you, career-wise, life-wise, just in general?
I think growth. I have a lot of learning to do. There's always learning. I have a lot of learning to do. So that I'm able to have impact in the path where I am right now. So I think for the coming 5, 4, 3 years, it would just be really putting myself out there, learning, engaging, contributing, having impact. You know, that's what I'm looking to do, and also personally, growth. As a person, always trying to become a better person, always, and then really trying to connect with. I think if we are going to change, I know a lot of young people, a lot of people that are watching want to see a different Lesotho, but a lot of us speak from a point of a lot of ignorance as well. We think that where we are right now is what needs to change. We look at our unemployment, we look at the challenges we have where we are, and we think that it's the whole world. Even for our leaders, they don't know us. I think a lot of people will this person like they don't know us. Like, they don't know us. They don't know the rest of Lesotho. And that's simply because we are not engaging. We are not engaging with Basotho and asking Basotho and helping Basotho reach their aspirations. And for me personally, it's that deeper, trying to get that deeper knowledge of what Lesotho is and what change do people. We think that the change that we want is the change that somebody in Mokhotlong wants, and we are.
I was actually about to ask, when you say Lesotho, what is Lesotho? Because there's this misconception that Maseru ke Lesotho, and I always find it very surprising that people in Maseru, firstly, are very diverse in Maseru. The youth in Maseru are very diverse, let alone the youth in other districts, Mokhotlong versus Mafeteng versus Liribe. So what would you say from a development point of view? I know. What would you say from a development point of view, some of the initiatives such as the Global Shaper Community Play or the Institute of Pitso Institute of Research Plays, or there's a lot of initiatives geared towards youth empowerment. And some of them you've been you've been curator of the Global Shapers Maseru Hub. What's your take on the importance of those such initiatives from a development perspective?
Those initiatives are important because they are platforms and they are organized. So definitely important in that regard. However, we need to find better ways to raise the authentic voices. For example, the Global Shapers, right? It stands for the World Economic Forum. It's a global platform, but how do we make it relevant and beneficial for young Basotho, right? And then when we say young Basotho, who exactly are we talking about? And are we just being lazy in that we're thinking, okay, maybe these people need this and this is what we're going to give them? Or are we going out and saying, okay, we think you need this, but can we engage and tell us what it is that you really need and how we can use the resources that we have to empower what you need? It leads to a greater sense of ownership and sustainability of programs, rather than just feeding, supplying people with different programs. An institution like Pitong is a great example. If we are saying that we are going to change, empower communities and change, help communities bring about their own change, then communities should be part of that, right? We can't just feed them. And with Pitong, it has community councillors, it has chiefs as its members, so that they can speak to the powers that be about their needs, about what they want, about the contribution that they want to make with the power that they've been given, So I think that's that's an approach to development that we need to take. Rather than it being supply driven, let's demand, or let's bring the demand to the fore, so that the financing also goes to the demand and not the supply, which hasn't been working for these many years. Yeah.
And I think the last question that I have, and then I'm going to ask you for your closing remarks. I know, but we do still have time. So the one question that I always want to find out, is how do we as the youth engage with government, or how does government engage with the youth? I know there's a lot of attempts and there's a lot of effort that goes into that, but there is also that disconnect in a way. So what are some of the strategies that come to mind when we talk about engagement, stakeholder engagement, authentic engagement, where we don't blame the government does not blame the youth, but there's actually honest, open engagement between the two?
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one because people have been trying, and people feel tired. They feel that it's not happening, and all of that. But I recently read and saw a video of the First Lady of Namibia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I also saw that, yes.
Right, and she spoke a bit about how to do that. She spoke about, and I agree with her. I mean, she really articulated it well. And some of the things she said was having your own economic or financial backing, because a lot of exactly, and it's not easy, but if you want to do something, then you make strides towards it happening, and it's not a straight line that you need to have 100,000 before you can join, but the concept should be there to say, okay, I want to join this, but I need to understand that this is not what's going to put bread and butter on my table. That means I need to also find ways, to maintain my independence, to not be dependent in terms of my livelihood on this. How do I find other ways? That's one thing that she said. And then she also said it's an investment. It's you're not gonna get into politics today and expect everybody to say, wow, where have you been? Not gonna happen, because politics is not about that. People have their interests. People want to see their interests, come to life. So investing, getting to know, the players, observing. I think, but then also putting yourself in there. Like I see a lot of people talk about politics. They're entrepreneurs, which is great. Yes, they're entrepreneurs. They're in the private sector, don't know anything about how the public sector operates. And they're like, no, I could have done this like this. Nah.
Get in the game.
Exactly. So we need to put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
We need to understand. We need to put ourselves in those positions. Understand that it's not going to happen tomorrow. I do believe that if we could concentrate all our efforts, the country would grow. There are so many opportunities. We could grow quick. 20 years, 10 years.
10 years.
We could see. I personally
5 maybe.
Possible.
I
genuinely
size
believe
of
in
about
that.
2 million, 2.2 million.
I mean,
really?
What? We are not even the size of the Mangaung municipality, So, yes, I believe it's possible. But as an individual, understand that you're not going to get there and be prime minister, or you're not going to get there and then the prime minister's like, oh my gosh, where have you been? It's a different game in there, so just understanding that and going for it. Let's do it. Let's contribute where we are, and if you want to go into public office, then go for it. be authentic,
Be authentic.
don't lose your integrity. When you're speaking, know what you're saying, say it right, all of that, being a bit saucy, but anyway.
All right. So I think
Jokes.
a book that changed your life, or the book that you're reading, and then follow up to that would be a quote that keeps you grounded, a quote that keeps you going, a quote that whatever. There could be a few. For me, I have a few. But what's that quote that gives you that, do or die? And then the book that just changed your life, or changing your life, or that's changing your life.
Professionally, one of the books that really, gave me a different view, and it just gave me some level of perspective about development itself, was Why Nations Fail.
Why Nations Fail.
Yeah, that for me was a very, it doesn't have the answers to all, and there's a lot of criticism, but for me it really, opened up my eyes to, instead of just blaming, there are different forces at play in any environment, so just looking at that. Right now I'm reading the Bible.
It's also a book.
It's definitely a book, and like with COVID and everything that's happening, I just really wanted to, and really in that process of thinking, who am I? Who do I want to be? What world do I want to show up? How do I want to show up in the world? I really needed to get back to spirituality, and the Bible is what I'm reading. And then the quote, a quote that has had an impact on how I see things, is something that was said by one of my professors of development economics, and he said that development is about bringing people dignity, or helping people live dignified lives. So that's like, I always look at it that way, is that what we're doing? How can I contribute to that happening? And we're a bit far from it now, but for me that's what it is. How do we help our people live dignified lives? And dignified means being able to to provide for your family, being able to have safe drinking water, being able to use a clean facility, getting into a clean classroom, access to health service. That's dignity. That's helping people, and then people can then be whoever they want to be. So that's what it is for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Elita Banda. Bombele Wanta Day, it's been an amazing conversation on... Let me take a moment to do this. It's really been an amazing conversation with Me Elita, and this is a platform where we really get to talk about professional development, and where we create a platform for us to talk about the workplace and different professions within the corporate, non-profit, public sector space. And this is Mentorship Mondays, brought to you by Inspire Mentorship Program, hosted by yours truly. My name is T Kay Nthebe, and it's really been an honor and a privilege to be